Hi, everyone. I'm John Jeffries with Callahan Associates. Welcome to our fifth edition of Strategy Brief. Again, I'm joined by my colleague, Jay Johnson. Hey, Jay.
Hey, John. How's it going?
Good. So, again, Strategy Briefs are our way that we're having more frequent conversations with Credians, share what we're hearing from the field. And, I think that one of the themes that is constant is, given the period of uncertainty we're in, having more strategic conversations with your teams, your boards, your stakeholders is critical. So Jay, I thought today maybe we talk about some of the things that we're hearing from the virtual planning sessions that we've been doing over the past couple of weeks. You and I have each done a handful of them, and they've been a really effective tool to have planning. And one of the themes that seems to have come up a lot is how do we keep score, and what are the metrics that we might use? And maybe for our conversation today, it may be helpful to break it in two parts. One is traditional financial metrics and what are we seeing there, and how are we talking to our stakeholders about those? And then second is maybe some forward-looking or newer metrics around impact or purpose that Credit is using to keep score. So, Jay, I think one of the things we're seeing on the traditional financial side is, a lot of the metrics are getting challenged because of all the share inflows we've seen, right? It seems like credits are quote unquote swimming in liquidity. So maybe do you want to talk about what you're hearing from credits around those traditional metrics and how they keep scoring, and really how they're framing it to their stakeholders about success?
Yeah, John, I think the overriding theme is just uncertainty. It is really challenging for not just credit unions, kind of anyone to be forecasting these days. But I think there are a few particular areas that we've heard that are really leading to some of these challenges. You mentioned liquidity, but let me start with non-interest income was kind of a first area that we heard a lot of people not sure where that might go. Obviously, a lot of credit unions, as the pandemic started, put in fee waivers as a way to alleviate, kind of cash flow issues that members may have. Some of those are still in place. Some credit unions are kind of saying, okay, is it time to reconsider some of those? So those are self-imposed, though, in a way. I mean, the credit union has some control over that. The ones that don't have control over is interchange. And obviously that's, as we know from our non-interest income survey, that's the biggest component of non-interest income. And we've seen a lot of good data from PSU and Co-op are coming out kind of weekly with what's happening. But certainly what we're hearing today is while debit seems to be coming back, credit card interchange still is lagging, and that obviously gives more margin. So, as we see the pandemic kind of play out, I mean, you're now seeing states that had opened up maybe starting to pull back even a little bit as infections ramp up. So again, it just plays into that uncertainty of where's that interchange going to go, what type of consumer activity is going to be occurring. So
Right.
non-interest income, the interest rate environment, we know the Fed's now saying at least through 2021 we'll be in this kind of zero rate environment. And if you reflect back on the post-Great Recession environment, we know that extended much longer than people really ever thought it would. So, there's uncertainty of will that continue well beyond 2021, or at least beyond 2021? And as you said, that kind of plays into this liquidity challenge because you've got all these shares coming in. Lending activity is slowed outside of mortgages primarily. At least balance sheet loan growth is slowed. And so, credit unions just have to invest that, and there's just not much return out there for investments. So now you're getting squeezed on net interest margin. And then that just growth in the balance sheet from those deposits coming in affects net worth, affects ROA. So, these are all kind of traditional financial strength measures that credit unions look at and boards look at, and
regulators.
Right, yes. And while certainly you still want to track that, Again, where exactly you benchmark that and where exactly you see it going, it's just becoming really, really challenging. One of the credit unions we were talking with put forth 10 different scenarios to their board. The board had asked for some scenarios, and they came out with 10, and it just shows you the kind of range
Yeah.
of the scope of scenarios that people are seeing. So it's just a really challenging time because we just don't have control over any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, Jay, I think one of the other interesting parts that, you saw in the last crisis that you mentioned was, the fear of going long, right? What's the saying? Don't go long or you'll be wrong or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, I think credit unions could go out the yield curve and make investments, or try and put some of the share inflow to work on the lending side. But we just don't know how long is this inflow going to stay, right? I think the influx took some people by surprise, and maybe they're a little bit hesitant to put that money to work just because we're not quite sure the sensitivity or the duration of it. So another factor to consider. So that's sort of on the financial side that we've talked about, Jay. But we're also seeing a lot of credits think about, how do you keep score? How do you build out a scorecard around what's our impact or our purpose in the community? And in other industries, you see things like ESG type metrics. But I think for credit unions, they can have more specific or different types of metrics to talk about their impact. What are you seeing credit unions think about there?
Right. Yeah, and I agree that those types of measures may be maybe even more important in a way in this time. Certainly are important. You're seeing some of it already, and some of the leagues I think are doing a good job of communicating what's happening. So part of it may start with, how much have we issued in emergency loans to members? A lot of credit unions do it in low rate or kind of no questions asked. Kind of low dollar amount loans. That's important. Certainly the PPP loans, you're seeing a lot of metrics around that. But things like forbearance and skip-a-pay programs, how many members are those reaching, and what does that mean? Again, I think some credit unions initially were very just kind of automatic doing that. I think now they're saying, okay, maybe as the economy opens up,
Yep.
May want to have some sort of process to validate with members, but all those are good ones. But I think there's also some interesting ones you can think about in this rate environment that could also be helpful. One would be just loan recapture programs and loan savings or interest savings from those loan recapture programs. Again, when you reflect back on the Great Recession, we certainly saw some credit unions who that became their real focus, is not so much how much are we originating in loans, but how much are we saving members by refinancing loans elsewhere. And I think that's a really powerful way to get staff engaged, and obviously communicates explicit value we're providing to members.
Right.
The other programs you see are things like you've got some credit unions that if there's say 6 or 12 months of on-time payments on different loan types, that you might do an automatic rate reduction. And that can be another way of kind of capturing, in this low rate environment, rewarding members for good behavior and tracking what that might mean to members as well. And then I think another point that would be important, and it's probably natural in this uncertainty that credit unions are looking at their credit standards, and do we need to look differently at underwriting? And while that's prudent and warranted, I think there's still plenty of opportunity out there. And so I think even tracking things like which members are we granting first-time credit to, or which members are we coming to us that are first-time home buyers. There might be ways that we're reaching new members, or maybe not necessarily unbanked, but at least ones that haven't achieved a certain level of status with their credit. This gives us an opportunity to reward them and again continue to ensure that, as you said, John, we're focused on our mission of expanding credit, and maybe even looking at things like credit migration. Again, that's going to be maybe challenging in a way at this time because of some of the uncertainty and the unemployment rate, everything else. That could be challenging, but at the same time, there probably will be opportunities for credit unions to help members, good members, just get on the right path and improve their credit score. And I think you don't want to lose sight of those. May be particularly important in this environment.
And Jay, I know you and I have talked in other of these sessions about the mindset that credit unions need to have, and maybe to lend your way through this, right? Because if you don't lend, all you have are sort of bad loans, right? And one of the things that I saw that really I found compelling on the credit union's website was they talked about how many members what percentage of loans have repaid, right? So they said 99.45% of loans are repaid, and I thought that was a really interesting mindset. I think the finance executives and us think of delinquency and charge-off, right? And so, okay, we have 0.5% charge-off. Okay, well, the inverse of that is 99.5% of people are paying us back. And I think that gets to some of the points you were making of, we know that many of our members are going to come on hard times, and we need to treat them with empathy and navigate that. But at the same time, we have 99% of our members who are doing okay. How do we try and grow that while we sort of manage the challenge there? So I think that dual focus of, let's treat the members that are struggling with empathy, but at the same time, look for ways to grow and add value is critically important.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. We kind of naturally look at, and Callahan's does this, we naturally look at what are the kind of risk areas, looking at delinquency charge-offs, but you're right. When you invert that, it underscores the opportunity that you have within your membership, and again, points to, as you said at the beginning, this is what we're about, is providing credit to members. And if you look at it, our membership base is great credits as you look at it overall. So yeah, I like that approach as well.
Yeah. Well, Jay, I think as we wrap up, I would encourage folks to make sure that they're having strategic conversations with their teams. Again, strategy isn't an event; it's a process. So I think certainly in this environment, having more frequent strategic conversations are critical. And if Jay or I can help your credit union with any of those conversations, again, we found that virtual planning is a really effective tool to get feedback, engagement with management teams, boards, and really drive alignment for what the next 6, 12, 18 months could look like. So again, thanks everyone for joining us on Strategy Brief, and we'll see you next time.